Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. I welcome you all to the Hindu analysis for today. Before we go deeper into the important articles of the newspaper today, a couple of important announcements. Number one, 28th of August this week at 11 a.m. you have the Byjus National Scholarship Test. This test gives you a chance to win up to 90% scholarship on the Byjus Exam Prep IAS courses. So make sure that you give this test. It's an online test. The link to register is given in the description of the video. The deadline to register is 28th of August till 6 a.m. Do make sure that you give this test and you can actually see how prepared are you for this examination. Also, this week's weekly explained session that goes live, as you know, every Friday at 8 p.m. will be on the big debate going on across the country, that is on the freebies. We'll be discussing how to look at freebies, the difference between welfare and freebies, is it justified or not. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin with the first article of the day today, that is about UBI. Now, usually UBI stands for Universal Basic Income. The idea of universal basic income is, irrespective of whatever the situation of the person is, everyone in the country should get certain minimum amount of money from the government every single month. Let's assume the government says we will give everyone 1000 rupees every month. If you are working, not working, employed, unemployed, doesn't matter. Obviously, the adults only, not the kids, because for them 1000 rupees will be too much. The idea of universal basic income is that everyone should be able to afford the basic minimum facilities in life. However, this article is not really focusing on universal basic income. For this article, UBI stands for Universal Basic Insurance. Now, I'm sure all of you are well aware of insurance. There are insurance of different kinds. There's medical insurance, which you also call health insurance. Then there's life insurance, and there are car insurance, travel insurance, so on and so forth. Over here in this article, the author is specifically talking about health insurance and life insurance. He's saying that despite a lot of efforts by the government of India, despite a lot of government schemes such as the Ayushman Bharat Yojana, etc., insurance penetration in India is still very, very low. And this is actually a reality. Most people in India do not buy insurance by themselves. Either they are covered under a government scheme and that is how they get insurance, or they are working in an organization where the company gives them the insurance, that is a health insurance. But you will have very few people in India who actually go ahead and buy an insurance themselves, be it the health insurance or life insurance, especially. The author here is saying that this is something that we need to look into. Life insurance, for example, can be extremely handy if something happens to the earning member of the family. This is a safety net that everyone should actually have. India right now has very, very low insurance penetration. Although the number of insurance schemes that were taken up in India actually increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. I myself am an example. I also bought a life insurance during the COVID pandemic crisis. But this is what the author is pointing out, that despite all the government schemes, despite a lot of social security schemes that we have, such as the food security program under which you get subsidized food grains, Manrega, midday meal scheme, all these are schemes that are providing social security to the people. But the one social security that we have still not been able to provide is the concept of life insurance. That is, if unfortunately someone passes away in the family, if that person is an earning member especially, then what happens to the other people? The author here says that the government of India has initiated multiple schemes and he gives multiple examples. For example, the Ayushman Bharat scheme, as you know, for the poor people in India has about 49 crore beneficiaries. This is a scheme under which the families will get health insurance of up to rupees 5 lakh. Apart from that, the government of India also runs the Employees State Insurance Corporation and central government health scheme that also covers certain people. But even if you combine all of them who have insurance of different kinds, as per the author, in India, we still have about 40 crore Indians who are not covered under any kind of health insurance whatsoever. Similarly, we don't have a lot of facilities of income security, meaning that if someone loses their job, if they are unemployed for some time, how will they earn money? How will they get money? there is no kind of income security attached. Yes, we do have provisions of provident funds where a part of your salary gets deposited and you can withdraw it. But again, that also applies to a very, very few proportion of Indians. There are a lot of Indians that are still not covered under any of these kind of income assurance schemes. The government has been focusing on the unorganized labor as well. For example, the government has started the Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana, which has 50 lakh beneficiaries, under which they will be given a lot of social security benefits from the government side. But the problem again remains the fact that in the entire country, such is the scale of India's population, especially in the unorganized sector, that most of them are still not covered under any of these schemes. And that is what the point of concern is for the author. He said that if you look at the penetration means how many Indians actually have these insurance products. In India, that number is only close to 4%. And that to actually increase because of COVID-19 pandemic, because many more people became aware of the importance of life insurance. Then there are countries, or again, I don't want to anger Xi Jinping, so let's not say Taiwan is a country. So there are regions such as Taiwan, which has 17% penetration in insurance. Japan has 9% penetration. China has 6% penetration. So there are countries that are doing very well, at least better than India, when it comes to having insurance with everyone in the population. One good example that the author here gives is Karnataka government's recent initiative called the Kutumb, under which the Karnataka government is trying to identify those people who are working in unorganized sector and helping them under various government schemes. Now, let's take a look at some of the other important numbers with respect to this topic which have not been mentioned in this article. Over here, I wanted to give you a slight comparison of how the other countries actually fare when it comes to insurance penetration. As you can see, Taiwan is way above most of the other nations because maybe because of China's threat, the people in Taiwan are much more aware of the life that they are living and the threat that they have. We have South Africa, US, South Korea, UK, Canada, all of these are in the high single digit numbers. Now, in India, as the article says, we are hovering close to 4%, which is below the world average of 7.3. And that too after the COVID-19 pandemic actually increased insurance penetration in India. Now, it's not that government of India is not doing anything. In fact, recently there was something called the Saral Jeevan Bima that was initiated. Now, what exactly is this? If you go and try to buy a life insurance plan from any of the companies, there are a lot of conditions involved. For example, what disease do you have right now? Depending upon that, your premium will be decided. Till how much time would you actually want to take this insurance? For example, if you say that I want to take an insurance till 70 years, that means if the person dies before 70, then the family will get the money. But if the person dies after 70 years, then no money will be given to the family. So all these kind of things actually made insurance very, very tricky. And that's why many people did not want to buy insurance. But now what has happened is there is something called the Saral Jeevan Bima that has been introduced by IRDAI, which is a regulatory authority for insurance companies in India. IRDAI has said that all the life insurance companies in India have to launch a scheme called the Saral Jeevan Bima plan, which is an essential plan that will offer basic protection to people who are self-employed or belong to the lower income category. Under this scheme, the sum insured can be from 5 lakh to rupees 25 lakh, and the insurer will have an option of providing a sum assured beyond 25 lakh as well if the company wants. The most important part is in this scheme, there shall be no exclusions other than suicides. So many of the insurance schemes actually have some exclusion. For example, they say if the person dies from a disease such as cancer, then we will not give any money. If a person dies of accident, then we will not give any money. If a person dies of heart attack, we will not give any money. So there are many, many exclusions. However, the IRDAI said that in this kind of scheme, there shall be no exclusion apart from suicide. That is a effort from the side of IRDAI and the government of India to make life insurance easier for the people to actually opt in. Also, Let's read a bit about the Kutumb scheme of Karnataka government that has been mentioned in the end part of this article. As I said, this is a social security scheme run by the Karnataka government, which aims to give benefits of the government schemes, especially to the poor people who are working in the unorganized sector. Under this, what the government of Karnataka is trying to do is they are trying to create a database, a kind of a registry of the people living in the lower economic status in the society. They will be given something called a Kutumb ID. The government will check their eligibility criteria, and automatically the benefits of multiple government schemes will be given to them. Meaning that for individual schemes, people would not have to come and register with the government. The government will create a database once and for all, and for any new government scheme that comes up, the people who are eligible will automatically start getting the benefits out of it. This is a simple point of the Kutumb scheme that Karnataka government has now started. This is a project implemented by the Center for E-Governance under Department of Personal Administrative Reforms by the Karnataka government, and that is what has been quoted in this article. The next article that we have here is about a very unfortunate incident in Rajasthan recently, where a 9-year-old boy actually passed away in a village in the Jalore district in Rajasthan. The boy's name was Inder Meghwal. Now, why exactly are we reading about this boy's unfortunate demise? We are reading about this because there are allegations that this was actually a crime related to the problem of untouchability. Now, you might say that untouchability is obviously abolished in India, it's prohibited, no one can practice it, but that is mostly on paper. The unfortunate reality is that untouchability still remains an integral part of the Indian society in most of the states, including Rajasthan. Now, the issue is that this schoolboy, a 9-year-old boy, was actually slapped by the teacher in the school. Now, there are different versions of this. Some people say he was slapped because he was drinking water from the tap that was meant for the upper caste only. Then there are other people who say that no, the teacher slapped him because he was not performing well in the school. So there are different sides of the story. The author here, however, is from Rajasthan itself, and he says that I know the reality of the state because I have lived in that state. And he says that in Rajasthan, especially, there is a widespread problem of untouchability that exists even today. The Meghwal community, to which the boy belonged, is still considered as an untouchable community in Rajasthan. Now, I'm sure all of you are aware that right against untouchability is a fundamental right enshrined in the Indian Constitution under Article number 17. Untouchability refers to discriminating amongst people, especially on the basis of their birth, not allowing them to be a part of the society, excluding them from day to day activities, and not allowing them to even visit places such as temples, wells, etc. The author here says that the Meghwal community has for long suffered from this derogatory way of life, so much so that it has become a part of their lives and people don't even question it now. But these discriminatory caste practices still exist in most parts of Rajasthan, as are witnessed by the author himself. And he says that whatever the reason behind the death of this small kid may be, it needs to be investigated properly and seen what exactly are the situations that have led to this. And the government of India and the government of the state, both of them must realize that the problem of discrimination on the basis of caste still remains a reality. You would have seen in newspapers and websites time and time again how when a Dalit wedding is happening, a lot of times the groom, the bride, the people who are attending the weddings are actually attacked by the people of the upper caste for various reasons. Sometimes they say that the Dalit groom doesn't have the right to actually sit on the horse. Sometimes they say that the groom's wedding cannot take place with all these celebrations. All these are a part of the reality in the Indian society, unfortunately. There have been multiple surveys that have been conducted that highlight the same. I'm just sharing with you a couple of examples. There was a survey carried out in 2018 about untouchability in various states across the country. And the survey said that untouchability as a practice is very high in Rajasthan, even in urban Rajasthan, not even the rural areas that you usually expect. Also in urban UP, even in the national capital of Delhi, the people still practice untouchability in one way or the other. Now, untouchability does not always have to be extreme. Just think about it. if there is a servant who is actually working at your place, if you are serving your servant some tea or some water, just think of it. Do you serve him or her tea or water in the same glass that you use, or you keep separate glasses or separate plates for the person who you are actually serving the food? That also is an example of untouchability only, because you don't want to mix up those utensils as well. So it's not that untouchability has to be in the extreme form only. It can be seen in very, very little things that we do in our day to day life as well. Not just this, it actually takes extreme forms as well. For example, crimes against Dalits have been increasing year after year. For example, over 1.3 lakh cases of crimes were registered against Dalits since 2018, meaning that during the COVID-19 pandemic, when everything stopped, when everything came to a halt, even then the crime against the Dalits actually were increasing. In the last 3 years, that is till December 2021, when this report was published, the crimes against Dalits were increasing, and you can see Rajasthan again is mentioned here. The NRCB, that is the National Crime Records Bureau, makes a mention of how the number of crimes against the Dalit class has been increasing year on year. These include untouchability, verbal abuse, physical violence, denying them access to public places as temples, wells, etc., denying economic opportunity, boycotting, so on and so forth. The next article that we have here is about the Government of India and the Election Commission of India's efforts to ask people to link their voter ID card with Aadhaar. The article here says that India stands as an exception amongst the developing nations in the sense that ever since our independence, all our elections have been fair in a manner that the result has been accepted by every single person, which is actually a very rare thing in the developing nations, especially. If you look at developing nations across the world, especially in our neighborhood, you would see that there has always been some problem in the elections. Either people don't accept the results or there are some other kinds of problems. But India, touchwood, barring some issues in the 1980s and 1990s, we have largely been able to keep our elections very, very true and honest and ensure a high voter turnout as well. So the article says there is no need to fix something that is not even broken. The entire election system in India works perfectly well, and there's not really a need to actually start changing that. And thus, the government of India's attempt to ask people to now link their voter ID card with Aadhaar card may not be a very, very smart step. The article here says that these days getting a voter ID card is not that difficult. You just have to show a couple of proofs of where you are residing and you can easily get your voter ID card. So why is it that the government of India changed the election laws recently in 2021 December to actually ask people to link their voter ID card with the Aadhaar card? Because that doesn't make sense. Also, we have to understand that the Aadhaar cards also are not free of error. Aadhaar cards have their own errors in photos, in the names, the name of the father, the date, so on and so forth. Also, Aadhaar card was never an identification for your citizenship, and the government also has mentioned this multiple times. Aadhaar is meant to be for residents. So there are people in India who may not be Indian citizens who still have their Aadhaar card. So linking Aadhaar card with voter ID card does not make much sense as per the author. Now, government on the other hand has clarified, along with the Election Commission of India also, that it is not mandatory to link your Aadhaar card with their voter ID card. This is just a suggestion for the people that even if they don't have their voter ID card, they can come and vote if they show their Aadhaar card because it is linked. But the problem is saying that it is voluntary, but then forcing people to do that on the ground has created even more problems. As you can see from multiple news stories, I'm just showing you these two news articles which were published just 3 days apart. One news article that says linking Aadhaar to voter ID is voluntary. That is what the Election Commission of India said. Then, just a couple of days later, there was a news in the Hindu newspaper that people are being forced by the Election Commission people to actually link their Aadhaar card with the voter ID card if they have to come and vote. So just by saying on paper it is voluntary, we are not asking you to link it, and on the other hand, making it compulsory to link your Aadhaar card with voter ID card does not really make much sense. And there are questions about it. Because the more linkages that you actually do, especially in a country like India where we still don't have the data privacy law. You are actually putting the data of the people, the biometric data, at risk, and you are actually putting the person's private life at risk, and the data can be misused. Now, let's just try and understand why is it that this linking between the two is happening. Now, this discussion has been going on for a long, long time. For example, in 2015, we had the National Electoral Roll Purification and Authentication Program. Now, as you know, the Election Commission of India has to make sure that the electoral roll or the list of the voters is kept up to date. It's a very difficult task. Many people die every single year. Many people turn 18, so their name has to be included. Many people shift from the place where they are living. For example, someone is living in Delhi, so they have the voter ID card of Delhi. Then they shift to Mumbai, so they can't have two voter ID cards. So removing the name from Delhi, adding it in Mumbai, all these are very complex things. That is why many people in India, although it is illegal, might have more than one voter ID card as well. To stop that from happening, to ensure that everyone has a unique identification, the government of India has always been thinking of linking voter ID with the Aadhaar card. That was the entire purpose. In fact, the Supreme Court has also said in the past, Aadhaar card scheme is purely voluntary and it cannot be made mandatory until it is decided by the court. But you also know the reality is that at most of the places that you go, bank, post offices, even to buy a SIM card these days, you are asked for your Aadhaar card. So Aadhaar card, even though not being mandatory, has still become kind of the most important document that you need to have now. Apart from this, we also have the recommendation of a parliamentary standing committee, under which the Committee on Personal Public Grievances and Law and Justice suggested linking Aadhaar with electoral rolls, especially for the purpose of purifying these rolls, making sure there is no duplication of the data. The government has said that it is just voluntary. We are trying to ensure that authentication of the voters can be done. We are trying to eliminate the proxies. We are trying to ensure that proper people can come and cast their vote. But again, saying that it is voluntary but not acting on it has always been a problem with the Indian laws in the past as well. The next article that we have here is about an important bill that is being discussed in the parliament. It's still in the parliament only. This is called the Competition Amendment Bill of 2022. Let's try and have a very basic idea of what exactly this is. The government of India has a body called the Competition Commission of India, called the CCI. Now, what do? Their responsibility is to ensure that there are no monopolies in the country and the competition actually remains a part of the Indian society. Let me give you a very simple example. So, apart from BSNL right now, if you have to go and buy a SIM card, you mainly have three options only. You have Jio, then you have Airtel, and then you have Vodafone Idea. Let's assume there's a hypothetical situation under which Jio tomorrow, because they have a lot of money, they buy Airtel and they buy Vodafone Idea also. The Competition Commission of India will not allow this to happen, even though they are buying it by paying proper money, etc. Why? Because with this, what will happen is in the country there will be only one private brand that is actually offering the telecom services. As a result, now they would have a free hand of charging anything from the customers. They can say that the same data pack that you have for 250 rupees right now, from tomorrow it will cost you 2000 rupees per month. And people will have to pay that because there's no other option that they would have, because a monopoly has been created in the market. That is why it is essential that monopolies are not created. That is why you cannot buy any company that you want. For some of these transactions, you have to take permission from the Competition Commission of India, and if they decide, they will not allow you to buy these. You can see the same kind of a thing in all these sectors. For example, if Coca-Cola tomorrow tries to buy every other cold drink existing in the market, PepsiCo and others, it will not be allowed, because again the competition will die down, monopolies will be created. And such kind of laws exist throughout the world. In fact, US is so strict that US is now contemplating asking big companies such as the Facebook group, which is run by Meta, all these companies to actually break up into various parts, because one company becoming too large becoming too powerful is also a problem as per the competition in the market. So now let's come back to the bill. The Competition Commission of India is a statutory body that came into being about a decade back. India does have something called the Indian Competition Act of 2002. Now, because the times are changing, what the government is trying to do is government is making changes in the original act of 2002. This is what is being tried to do by Competition Amendment Bill of 2022. Now, what are the major changes that they have introduced? They have said that any acquisition, merger, or amalgamation of two or more companies will be called a combination. So, when two or more countries combine to offer their services, that will be called a combination. Now, whenever such kind of a combination is happening and the value of the deal is rupees 2000 crore or more than that, then you have to first tell the Competition Commission of India that such a merger is happening. Only and only then you can actually go ahead and have this merger. Or if the Competition Commission says that no, you can't go ahead, then you will not be allowed to go ahead. Also, earlier, when the companies used to apply for permission from the Competition Commission of India, the Competition Commission of India had 210 days, that is 7 months, to take the decision. If they did not take a decision or they did not say anything for 7 months, then the companies were allowed to go ahead. Now that has been cut down to 150 days, that is 5 months and not 7 months. In some cases, there may be extension of 30 days given, but usually it will be 5 months now. There's also a concept of gun jumping. What is gun jumping? If the companies for some reason don't tell the Competition Commission of India or don't wait for the Competition Commission of India to actually take the decision and go ahead and make the deal anyway, this is called gun jumping. Means this is against the law, this is illegal. So obviously if this happens, the companies will be punished. How will they be punished? The penalty will be 1% of the value of this entire deal. This is very, very similar to what happens in Europe and in the American market as well. Apart from that, the Competition Commission of India will appoint a person called the Director General, which will have the power to actually take decisions about the abuse of the dominant power from the company, creation of monopolies, so on and so forth. Also, whatever the decision of the commission is, it will not be appealed. It will not be appealed anywhere. It is a decision of the Competition Commission of India only that will be final in the end. So in short, what this amendment is trying to do is they are trying to increase and improve the powers of the Competition Commission of India and make it in line with the current proceedings in the market. Now, it is also pertinent to know a few details about the Competition Commission of India. As we discussed, it's a statutory body that came into being with an objective to ensure that smaller organizations are able to defend themselves against the large corporations that try to create monopoly. Their main purpose is to ensure welfare of the consumers and a healthy competition to remain in the market. The commission has one chairperson and 6 members which are appointed by the central government. Now these are maximum 6 members, because if you go to the website today, you will see the commission has one chairperson and only 2 members, which is the case with most of the government organizations because there are a lot of vacancies. Also, this is a quasi-judicial body, so they can take decisions, allow the companies to go ahead with certain merger or not, depending upon the case-to-case basis. There is one more thing that I wanted to share with you. A lot of times you will see that certain bills are introduced in the parliament and then they are not covered in the news at all. So for example, today the Hindu newspaper covered something about the Competition Amendment Bill of 2022. But maybe for the next 2 months, the Hindu newspaper doesn't cover anything. Now, how do you know has this bill being passed or where this bill is right now? Is it pending in the House? Is it pending with the President? Is it pending in the joint sitting? What exactly is the present status of the bill? For that, let me tell you how to find out. There is a very, very good website called PRS India. So all that you have to go is go on Google, type prsindia.org, or if you Google search, you will get this website. This website keeps a track of all the government bills. So you can go to this option, Bills and Acts, and you can actually search, or you can search from here also. Click here and search by the name of the bill, and it will actually show you the present status of the bill, important pointers in the bill. It's the easiest way to keep a track of any bill. It gives the current status. It also gives a short summarized version of every bill in very, very simple language. So I highly advise you to actually check this out. You can also check about your own members of parliament. What is their attendance record in the parliament? How many days did they attend the parliament? What did they speak? The number of debates in which they took part, so on and so forth. It's a very, very good website. I highly advise you to actually check it out and keep a bookmark of it for Indian politics especially. The next article that we have here is about the wind power projects in India. There's a report that has come out by Global Wind and Energy Council, which is a consulting firm specializing in renewable energy. They say that the wind power projects in India are increasing, but the sad part is that India will reach its peak by 2024, after which it might start to decline as well. The article says India has committed that by 2030, at least half of our electricity will come by non-fossil fuel sources. So solar, wind, etc. have to play a major role in that. But the problem is, while solar has taken off very well, wind energy on the other hand has been very disappointing for various reasons. Wind industry installation in India have been slowing down since 2017 due to various reasons, and we'll discuss that also. One of the reasons is the auction process started from 2017 to award the tenders. Also, most of the wind plants are focused only in the two states of Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, and the other states and their potential has not been realized, which is why the wind power is not really making as much progress as we had thought. Now, what exactly is this auction process and what is the problem with it? Now, the government of India, for example, when they have to give allotment for wind power, will ask the companies that come and bid in a form of reverse auction. Now, what is reverse auction? Reverse auction means, let's assume there are three companies, A, B, and C. They want to set up wind power plants. When they go to the government, they will actually have to auction the lowest. For example, A will say that the electricity that I produce, I will sell it to the government for 5 rupees per unit. B says I will sell the electricity from this at 4 rupees per unit to the government. C says I will sell it at 3.5 rupees per unit to the government. So who will get the contract? C will get the contract. Because C is saying we'll sell the electricity to the government at the cheapest cost. That is called reverse auctioning. You have to bid the lowest number and the lowest number will win this contract. Now the problem is in reverse auctioning, when you bid such a low number, in the end it is not very viable for you to conduct business. Because the problem with wind power is to set this up you require huge amounts of land, and land is not very cheap. When you actually have to buy huge amounts of land, then you have to set up all that infrastructure. Then selling to the government at such a low tariff, such a low cost that is below 3 rupees per unit usually is not viable. And that is what creates a problem. Also, amongst all the states where the wind power is possible in India, most of the companies are focusing on two states only, it is Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. Because these are the states where the wind power, the speed of the wind is actually the highest, and they actually want to be here only. Because it is only these two states where most of the people are focusing, the cost of land has automatically increased. That is why buying of land and then setting up all that infrastructure, connecting it to the proper grid system, that has become a big problem. Because the companies have made such low bids, now they're actually running into losses. Other states such as Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra can also be utilized, but because the wind speed in these states is slightly lower and the government thinks that the land in these states may be costlier, the government is actually only asking people to bid in Gujarat and Tamil Nadu only, which is becoming a problem. All these factors combined means that the wind power system in India, which was thought to have a lot of potential, has actually come down considerably. The government of India has to ensure that the companies are actually allowed to make certain profit and they cannot sell electricity at such low prices right now. See, with solar etc., you can actually plant solar cells at many places. You can even do that on the top of the buildings, on top of any land that you have. Because they don't require a lot of land, they can be set up in small sizes also. But for wind power, for setting up windmills, you can only set up at those places first where there is a good amount of wind that is actually coming every single day. So the number of areas where you have to set it up are even lower. Secondly, it is a big infrastructure, it is a big requirement of the land. So obviously that also creates a lot of problem in setting up the wind power plants. That is why they have not been as successful as solar in India. This is the capacity state-wise of the installed wind power production in India. As you can see, Tamil Nadu and Gujarat are way ahead. They are the ones where most of the focus has always been. Then there's potential in Karnataka, Maharashtra, Rajasthan also, but they are much, much smaller as compared to the top two states. These were the important articles that we had from the Hindu newspaper today. Now, a couple of practice questions. Number one, the expansion of wind power generation projects in India has been slower than expectations. What are the major reasons behind these shortcomings? Second, despite being prohibited in India for over 7 decades, untouchability still remains a part of the Indian society. Discuss ways to eradicate this evil from the Indian society. Both these questions have to be answered within 250 words each. Thank you so much for watching the video and don't forget to register for the Byjus National Scholarship Test. Bye bye.